Before the world spoke of great powers, before the maps of Europe were carved by iron and gunfire, there existed a realm unlike any other. Not an empire of a single people, but a mosaic, a living tapestry stitched from dozens of languages, faiths, and memories. This was the Austro-Hungarian Empire, a nation of nations, from the alpine valleys of Tyrol to the Hungarian plains that rolled like waves into the east. From the palaces of Vienna to the wooden villages of Galicia, its borders contained worlds within worlds, a place where German nobles lived beside Slavic peasants, where Jews prayed beside Catholics and Orthodox Christians, where Magyar horsemen remembered ancient steppe ancestors, while Czech craftsmen built the future with their hands. For centuries, the rhythms of Vienna's waltz danced alongside the haunting folk songs of the Carpathians. Golden crowns shared space with embroidered peasant aprons, and the voices of emperors mingled with the laughter of Roma storytellers. This is the story of an empire that defied definition, an empire too complex to survive the storm of modern nationalism, yet too beautiful to ever be forgotten. Welcome to the Austro-Hungarian Empire, culture, heritage, and the rise and fall of a world in between. Long before the dual monarchy was born, before Austria and Hungary stood as partners, there were two distinct worlds: the Austrian lands, born from the medieval ambitions of the Habsburgs, a family whose destiny stretched across Europe; the Hungarian kingdom, formed by Magyar conquerors who rode out of the Eurasian steppe nearly 1,000 years earlier. Their stories began apart, yet fate would draw them together. The tale of Austria is impossible to tell without the Habsburgs, a family of unlikely beginnings, not warrior kings, not ocean-crossing conquerors, but masterful diplomats. They did not win empires with swords, they married them. Let others wage war, the saying went. You, happy Austria, marry. Through shrewd alliances, they gathered territories like jewels in a crown, lands in Italy, Spain, the Low Countries, Bohemia, and beyond. But at the heart of their growing dominion lay the territories we now call Austria, a land shaped by mountains, monasteries, and merchant towns, a Catholic world deeply linked to the Holy Roman Empire and the church that guided its spirit. Far to the east, another story took shape. The Magyars, a nomadic people from the Eurasian steppe, arrived in the Carpathian Basin in the late 9th century. Fierce horsemen, lightning-striking raiders. They swept across Europe, feared by kings across the continent. But then, under their great king, Saint Stephen, they did something unexpected. They embraced Christianity and built a kingdom that would endure 1,000 years. Their language, unlike any in Europe except Finnish and Estonian, marked them as outsiders. Yet their spirit, their pride, their connection to the freedom of the plains would become central to the soul of Hungary. By the 1500s, Europe burned with war, and both Austria and Hungary faced a common threat: a massive empire expanding from the east, the Ottoman Turks. Hungary fell. Its king died in battle. Its lands became a frontier of faith and power. Austria stood alone against the Ottomans. Vienna itself came under siege. The Habsburgs rose to defend Christian Europe, a moment that would forever bind Austria and Hungary. The Hungarian nobles, seeking protection from the Ottoman storm, accepted Habsburg rule. Two kingdoms, two cultures, one crown, not as equals, not yet. That would come later. But the seed was planted. What made this region so extraordinary was not its wealth, nor its armies, but its people. The empire was a kaleidoscope. Germans, Hungarians, Czechs, Slovaks, Croats, Serbs, Romanians, Poles, Ukrainians, then called Ruthenians, Italians, Jews, Roma, Slovenes. More than a dozen ethnicities speaking different languages, worshiping in different ways, living side by side. A Jewish merchant in Prague might speak German at work, Yiddish at home, and Czech in the street outside. A Croatian village might hear church bells on Sunday and folk drums in the evenings as elders told stories of heroes lost to time. This was not a melting pot. It was a mosaic, each piece distinct, each tile important, together forming a masterpiece. No other empire in Europe held such cultural diversity under one banner. At the heart of this vast realm stood Vienna. Elegant, artistic, sophisticated, the city became a beacon of culture, a stage where poets, musicians, and philosophers shaped the world. Cafes filled with thinkers, concert halls echoed with Mozart and Beethoven. Opera houses dazzled with spectacle. The waltz, born here, captured the spirit of the city. Graceful, dazzling, alive. To walk through Vienna was to feel history whisper through its streets. Baroque palaces, grand boulevard, gilded halls. It was here that emperors ruled and ideas were born. But beyond the grandeur, in the forests of Bohemia, the farms of Galicia, the vineyards of Hungary, different worlds thrived. The empire was not just palaces and parliaments, it was families, villages. Rituals passed from generation to generation. A Slovak peasant at harvest, a Hungarian horseman tending livestock, a Jewish community preparing Sabbath, a Croatian fisherman blessing his boat before sailing the Dalmatian coast. Their clothing, their music, their stories were threads in the imperial tapestry. Life depended on seasons. Wheat in the plains, grapes on the vine, salt from mountain mines, fish along the Adriatic coast. Tradition anchored these people. Heritage gave them identity. Even as the world modernized, these customs endured. Quiet, resilient. Yet beneath the beauty lay tensions. Many peoples, but who held power? The Germans of Austria and the Hungarians of Hungary dominated government. Others felt excluded. Czechs, Slovaks, Serbs, Poles, Romanians. Nationalism, a new force, began to spread. What once united began to divide. The mosaic started to crack. But that story belongs to another hour. The 18th and 19th centuries would transform the lands of Austria and Hungary from fragmented kingdoms into one of the most intriguing powers of the modern world. And at the heart of this evolution stood a family whose story shaped Europe itself, the Habsburgs. Their empire was changing from a medieval world guided by kings and priests into a modern society driven by industry, nationalism, and revolution. But before the storm, there came an age of grand reforms, of music, philosophy, military struggle, and cultural rebirth. This was the age of Maria Theresa and her son, Joseph II, a time when crowns began to listen to the voices of their people, a time when the empire began to look like the world we recognize today. She was not meant to rule. In an age when crowns passed only through men, Maria Theresa inherited a troubled throne after the death of her father, Charles VI. Europe doubted her. Rivals prepared to seize her lands. And Prussia, led by Frederick the Great, struck first. War engulfed her kingdom. Yet Maria Theresa did not break. She rallied her people. She reformed her armies. She centralized her government. And she defended her inheritance with determination, rarely seen in rulers of her time. Not merely a monarch, she became a mother to her lands and her people. She built schools, modernized the tax system, strengthened the economy, reformed the military, and she reshaped society itself. Under Maria Theresa, education became compulsory, a revolutionary idea. From alpine villages to Bohemian towns, children now entered classrooms, some for the very first time. Culture flourished, and the seeds of modern Austria were planted. Her son, Joseph II, took the throne with grand dreams. He admired philosophers, Voltaire, Rousseau, and believed in reason, progress, and reform. His goal was bold, to reshape the empire from above. He abolished serfdom. He brought religious tolerance. He sought to centralize power and break the influence of nobles and clergy. German became the language of administration, an attempt to unify the empire through words. But idealism has a price. His reforms came too fast for a society still rooted in tradition. Hungarians resisted. Nobles resisted. Even peasants, uncertain and afraid, resisted. Joseph II died young, his ideas only partly realized. Yet his vision would echo through history, inspiring the modernizing spirit that defined Austria for generations. The empire now stretched across Central Europe, but the population was not one. A traveler crossing the empire might hear German in Vienna, Czech in Prague, Polish and Yiddish in Galicia, Romanian in Transylvania, Croatian along the Adriatic, Slovene in the Alps, Hungarian on the plains. Dozens of cultures, dozens of identities, dozens of dreams. And everywhere, local traditions continued to thrive. In Bohemia, glassmakers and brewers perfected their crafts. On the Hungarian plains, Sarda inns echoed with folk songs of roaming horsemen. In Transylvania, Romanian shepherds tended flocks beneath the Carpathian peaks. On the Dalmatian coast, Croatian sailors navigated turquoise waters. The empire was a symphony, sometimes harmonious, sometimes discordant, always alive. But beneath the beauty, a fire smoldered. Nationalism, a new force, spread across Europe. People everywhere began to ask questions. Who are we? Who should rule us? Where do our loyalties lie? In 1848, these questions exploded into revolution. Across Europe, from France to Italy, from the German states to Hungary, peoples rose against old regimes. In Vienna, students filled the streets, demanding rights, freedoms, a voice. In Budapest, Hungarian nationalists demanded independence, their poets calling, we swear, that we will no longer be slaves." Revolution spread. The empire trembled. The Habsburg court fled Vienna, terrified. But not all would fall. In these desperate hours, a new figure emerged. Field Marshal Windisch Gratz crushed revolt in Prague. And in Hungary, where revolution burned hottest, another storm approached. From the east, the Russian Empire, fearing the spread of revolution, joined Austria. Together, they forced Hungary's armies to surrender. The revolution was over. Victory. But at what cost? The empire was shaken, trust broken, national wounds opened. The question remained, how could so many peoples live together in one empire? The Habsburgs realized the old ways could not continue. After military defeats and internal pressure, a new solution emerged. In 1867, the empire was reborn as the Austro-Hungarian dual-monarchy. Austria and Hungary became almost equal partners, two nations sharing one emperor. Emperor Franz Joseph ruled both, but each kingdom had its own parliament, its own government, its own identity. It was a delicate balance, a political tightrope designed to keep the empire whole. Some celebrated, some felt ignored. Czechs, Slovaks, Romanians, Serbs. Many still lacked autonomy. Yet for a time, it worked, and the empire entered a new golden age. From the 1860s into the early 1900s, the empire flourished. Railways connected distant lands, factories rose, cities grew. Vienna became the cultural capital of Europe, home to Freud, Mahler, Klimt. Budapest blossomed into a modern metropolis with grand bridges, boulevards, and cafes filled with poets and thinkers. Prague became a center of Slavic culture, its Gothic towers watching as Czech identity awakened. Lviv, Zagreb, Trieste, all thrived under imperial influence. Despite political tension, this was a time of artistic brilliance and cultural energy. A world where a Jewish composer, a Czech writer, a Hungarian noble, and a Croatian sailor might meet in a Viennese cafe and debate art, science, and philosophy. The empire was alive with possibility. This was its brightest hour, but shadows gathered. Nationalism was rising again. Old wounds reopened. And in the Balkans, the drums of war began to beat. Soon the empire would face its final trial. The world was about to change forever. The turn of the 20th century was the moment when the Austro-Hungarian Empire stood at the height of its majesty, a realm of over 50 million souls, stretching from the snowy Alps to the warm shores of the Adriatic Sea, from the vineyards of Hungary to the forests of Galicia, an empire whose beating heart was culture, article, music, science, thought. Vienna glittered, one of the brightest cities on earth. Budapest blossomed, a rising capital of the future. In cafes and palaces and workshops and synagogues, across farms and universities, the spirit of change was everywhere. Yet beneath this brilliance lay old tensions that would one day tear the empire apart. This hour is the story of that dazzling peak and the quiet cracks forming beneath the surface. To understand the Austro-Hungarian world, we must step inside everyday life, not only among nobles and artists, but among the many peoples who live side by side, sometimes in harmony, sometimes in rivalry. Imagine traveling through the empire in 1900. You start in Vienna, where German fills the cafes and the waltz drifts through open windows. You journey east to Prague, where Czech nationalism grows even as German signs hang above shop doors. Next, you reach Galicia, one of the poorest regions, where Poles and Ruthenians plow fields side by side, and Jewish shtetls hum with prayer and trade. Then to Budapest, city of lights, language, and Magyar pride. Southward to Croatia, where fishermen chant ancient songs along the Adriatic. Across the plains of Hungary, horsemen still ride, their heritage echoing from the steppes centuries before. One empire, many worlds, shared roads, shared markets, yes, but different languages, loyalties, and dreams. More than a dozen ethnic groups lived within the same nation, each proud of its heritage, each determined to preserve its identity. That was Austria-Hungary, not a melting pot, but a bouquet of cultures, beautiful, unique, but fragile. At the center of this world stood Vienna. No city of the time rivaled its brilliance. Gold-trimmed opera houses echoed with the music of Strauss. Concert halls witnessed genius. Mozart, Beethoven, Haydn had called these streets home. Now new voices arose. Gustav Mahler conducting operas with revolutionary intensity. Johannes Brahms composing masterpieces that stirred the soul. Vienna became the capital of thought and of contradiction. In coffee houses, smoke curled into the air as philosophers and dreamers argued about the nature of society. A young doctor named Sigmund Freud was uncovering the mysteries of the human mind, shocking the world with ideas of dreams, desire, and the subconscious. Artists rejected tradition. The Vienna Secession challenged classical beauty, embracing bold new forms. Gustav Klimt painted gold-leaf visions of pleasure and sorrow, gods and lovers intertwined. Jews, Czechs, Hungarians, Italians, all walked the same boulevards, debated in the same cafes, and filled the same theaters. Vienna was not merely a city, it was a state of mind, a gathering place for all the empire's souls. Across the Danube, another capital glittered. Budapest, a city reborn. In 1867, Hungary gained equal status with Austria, and in the decades that followed, it raced toward modernity. Bridges spanned the river. A grand boulevard, Andrassy Avenue, emerged, lined with neo-Renaissance mansions. Parliament, a palace of stone and imagination, rose along the riverbank, an architectural poem. Budapest claimed one of the world's first subway lines, a sign of ambition, innovation, self-confidence. In cafes, Hungarian writers and politicians argued over how to build a strong Magyar nation. Pride stirred, so did anxiety. Hungarians sought to make their language dominant, often clashing with Slovaks, Romanians, Serbs, and others who refused to surrender their identities. The future felt bright, but also uncertain. To the north, in the Kingdom of Bohemia, the city of Prague awakened. Long under German influence, the Czechs asserted themselves, reviving their language, building schools, newspapers, theaters. Writers like Karel Havlicek and historians like Franciszek Palacký reminded their people of Slavic heritage. Soon, Prague rivaled Vienna and Budapest as a cultural center. Its Gothic spires and winding medieval streets became symbols of a national rebirth. But rebirth carried its own tensions. The Czech push for equality conflicted with German influence. Debates in parliament grew fierce. Students clashed in the streets. The question rose again: how could so many nations live together without tearing the empire apart? Spiritual life remained central to the empire. Though Catholicism dominated court and tradition, religious diversity thrived. In Vienna and Krakow, Catholic cathedrals rose in marble splendor. In Transylvania, Orthodox churches preserved rituals older than the empire itself. In Bosnia, mosques called the Faithful, a reminder of centuries of Ottoman rule. In Prague and Budapest, Jewish communities flourished. Rabbis teaching Torah, merchants building wealth, children reciting ancient prayers. Faith was a pillar of identity, but also a source of division. Catholics, Protestants, Orthodox, and Muslims all lived within one empire. Some saw diversity as richness, others saw it as threat. The balance grew ever more delicate. To the south lay the Balkans, a region where history lived not in books, but in blood. It was a crossroads of empires, religions, and ancient grievances. Serbs, Croats, Bosnians, Slovaks, and others shared borders and memories. Some looked to Vienna, others to Budapest, still others to Russia for protection and kinship. Every group dreamed of its own destiny. When Austria-Hungary took control of Bosnia and Herzegovina in 1878, the region simmered. Nationalist societies formed, some peaceful, some violent. They watched, waited, prepared. A spark there could ignite the world. Soon. Over it all reigned Franz Joseph, a man who became emperor at 18 and ruled for nearly 7 decades. To his people, he was more than a king. He was a symbol, a constant presence in a changing world. Under his rule, the empire modernized, prospered, and reached its golden age. Yet his personal life was marked by tragedy. His wife, Empress Elizabeth, Sisi, beautiful, thoughtful, restless, could not bear the suffocating court. His son, Crown Prince Rudolf, died in the Mayerling incident, a wound Franz Joseph never forgot. He continued, duty-bound. The empire his burden and his identity, but even he could not stop the march of history. As the 20th century dawned, the empire glittered with wealth and innovation. Railways, universities, theaters, all flourished. Yet nationalism spread like wildfire. Serbs dreamed of uniting all Slavs. Czechs demanded equality. Romanians sought independence. Poles sought nationhood. Even within Hungary, Slovaks and Croats resisted Magyar dominance. The empire still lived, but its foundation was cracking. In Vienna, leaders debated how to hold so many nations together. Grant autonomy, centralize power, divide the empire. No answer came. The government stalled. National tensions rose. The empire needed change, but change never came. Instead, came catastrophe. In a world of wounded pride, ancient rivalries, and restless dreams, a single gunshot would soon shatter the illusion of stability and drag the empire and the world into war. For centuries, the Austro-Hungarian Empire stood as a bridge between worlds, a realm of languages and legends, of kingdoms ancient and young, of cultures woven together by chance, by conquest, and by fragile hope. We have walked the roads of Vienna and Budapest, heard the voices of Prague and Galicia, and seen the beauty of a land too diverse to fully unite, yet too vibrant to ever truly disappear. We have witnessed its rise, from the medieval Habsburg thrones, to the triumphs of Maria Theresa and Joseph II, to the glittering brilliance of its golden age. And now, as the 20th century gathers storm clouds along the Balkan frontier, we stand at the edge of a world about to be changed forever. Ahead lies war, rebellion, revolution. A single act of violence will strike the match that ignites the world, and nothing will ever be the same again. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history, through the streets of Vienna, the plains of Hungary, and the forests of Bohemia and Galicia. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider supporting our work by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Your support brings forgotten history back to life. Join us next time for Part 2, The Great War and the End of Empire. Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and remember, history lives in all of us.